I'm Aaron, 27 years old, and if you asked anyone in my family who the accomplished son was, they'd immediately name my brother Evan. From childhood, it was never hidden. Dad placed Evan on a high platform. At every family meal, every celebration, even on ordinary days, he'd managed to bring up Evan's name. Evan just earned another advancement. Evan's supervisor called him leadership material. Evan truly possesses the focus his brother always lacked. His brother, that's me, the overlooked one in the shadows, apparently there just to make Evan shine brighter. Mom occasionally tried to ease the tension, saying things like, "Your father only wants the best for you." But even she couldn't ignore that Dad's preference had grown into something more unpleasant over time. It went beyond simple pride. It became about his own ego. He desired a star son, someone he could boast about to his coworkers, golf partners, or those business associates he drank with after hours. Evan was that prize. I, meanwhile, served as the constant proof that not every effort yields results. You see, Evan followed the secure route, attended university, earned a finance degree, joined Dad's firm, and rose steadily with Dad supporting the foundation. I attempted to build something unique. I wasn't suited for balance sheets and workplace games. I enjoyed making things, beginning from scratch and creating products people desired. At 21, I took my savings plus a modest loan to launch a neighborhood printing business. It wasn't flashy, but it belonged to me. I recall entering the kitchen one evening after officially starting the company, thrilled and eager to inform my parents. I hoped that, at least this once, Dad might feel proud of my effort. He didn't even glance up from his screen. "A print shop? You mean stuff like signs and shirts?" He replied, nearly chuckling. "That's not real work, Aaron, that's just a side activity. You'll run out of cash in half a year." Mom offered me that pitying expression, the kind meant to console but only made me feel lesser. Evan grinned across his meal and remarked, "You should have simply entered Dad's firm. You could have had a secure position rather than pretending to be a business owner." That term, pretending, stayed with me, as if my attempts were merely a kid's play compared to their professional world. The first months were tough. I hardly rested, managing tasks from production to shipments to midnight bookkeeping. But gradually it began expanding. I secured some nearby customers, then a few educational institutions, and later a local sports organization needing uniforms and flags. With each achievement, I considered telling my dad. Each time I held back, knowing exactly how the talk would unfold. 2 years later, I received my first major deal, an agreement worth more than Dad's yearly pay when he launched his own venture. When I tried sharing during a family cookout, Dad interrupted me to boast about Evan's latest vehicle from the company. "That's what comes from real effort," he declared, patting Evan on the shoulder. "You earn benefits." Then looking at me, he added, "You paying attention, Aaron? Real effort brings rewards, not betting on fantasies." It went beyond speech. He quietly undermined me in minor instances. When I offered to produce materials for his firm at a reduced price, hoping to add value to the family operation, he mocked it and replied, "We hire experts, Aaron. Proper printing companies, not your setup." That hurt deeply, not due to finances, but because it revealed his true view of my value. Nevertheless, I continued onward. I quit seeking his validation and worked for my own goals. In the following years, I grew the venture digitally, added 2 more sites, and started providing design and branding work. My modest outlet had become a proper enterprise with dedicated staff, but none of it registered with Dad. At every gathering, he'd throw in those subtle jabs. "Still operating your small shirt outlet." Or you'd earn proper income if you joined your brother's firm. Then came that particular meal, the one that shifted my perspective on everything. It was Mom's birthday, with the entire family at her preferred dining spot. I'd recently finalized a deal with a nationwide store network, my greatest success so far. And I wondered whether to mention it. For once, I wanted to mark my own victory, but before I could speak, Dad lifted his glass and announced, a toast to Evan, the jewel of our family. His team just achieved peak earnings. Everyone applauded. I stayed silent. Mom looked my way, perhaps spotting my clenched expression, but stayed quiet. Then Evan leaned close and murmured, "You ought to offer those shirts cheaper, little brother. Maybe then you'll catch up." I made myself chuckle, but inwardly something broke. A steady, growing frustration built over years. After the meal, I finally confronted Dad alone in the parking area. I explained I was exhausted from constant comparisons. Tired of my successes being ignored. He met my gaze and responded, "Aaron, this isn't about comparing. It's about facts. You picked a road that goes nowhere. You'll never succeed independently." Not truly. Then, with a slight smile, he added, "But perhaps Evan can arrange a place for you at the firm if it fails." That marked the point I gave up. In the months afterward, I pulled away. No more family meals, no more conversations. I poured energy into my company. The industry shifted rapidly, and while Dad's firm struggled to adjust, mine advanced. I observed it gradually. Their old-fashioned methods, resistance to updates, rising obligations. I learned through contacts, rumors of staff cuts, late wages, lost deals. Dad dismissed concerns, calling it a temporary challenge, but I understood the truth. Then one day, Evan appeared at my workplace. I hadn't met him in months. He wore his usual fitted outfit and confident smile. "Hey, little brother," he greeted as if we were close. "Dad's facing some money issues. Thought I'd check if you might. Assist somewhat." Perhaps lend the firm some capital. I could hardly believe it. After all the ridicule, they turned to me. I remained composed. I said I'd consider it. Inside, I experienced a feeling absent for years. Power, that evening, sleep evaded me. I replayed Dad's comments mentally. "You'll never succeed independently." Yet now this situation. A week passed and I received the news. My father's firm, the one he created, the one he used to judge me, had declared bankruptcy. But that's not the conclusion, not by far. Because once matters calmed and items went to sale, I noticed a chance. A fitting one, and let's say I seized it, but I'm jumping forward. Before that point, before the sale, before the documents, before the expression on my father's face upon realizing my actions, an event occurred that altered everything. Something that moved me from silent bitterness to precise, intentional payback. It began with a telephone conversation, one I'll always remember. When that call arrived, I sat at my desk reviewing recent financial reports. The company thrived, exceeding my expectations. We'd secured yet another large agreement, and for the first time I felt stable. Not only money-wise, but personally, as if I'd created something solid without needing validation. My helper notified me, "Aaron, a call for you. It's your father." For a second, I simply looked at the receiver. My father hadn't reached out personally in almost a year. We'd shared brief, awkward texts via my mother, formal and empty updates. But a real conversation, that was unusual. I instructed her to connect him, one part of me interested, another preparing for his purpose. His voice sounded diminished, artificial strength hiding frailty. "Aaron," he began, clearing his throat. "It's been some time." "Yes," I replied. "It has." He hesitated, likely expecting me to speak, but I remained silent. He proceeded. "Listen, your mother mentioned you're progressing well. That your printing operation is managing fine." "Better than fine," I corrected. "It's expanding." Another pause followed. Then he chuckled, that familiar, slightly superior laugh from my youth. "Well, that's positive, son. I'm happy things are stable for you." It wasn't the content, but the delivery, as if stable was the highest praise possible. As if I'd achieved basic ability he could note without conceding his past errors. But his manner changed. Actually, he continued, "I wish to discuss something. You've likely heard we've faced challenges at the firm." I settled into my seat, anticipating the direction. Evan brought it up. I responded cautiously. He exhaled. "Yeah, well, it's been challenging. The market isn't like before, and we had unforeseen issues. Nothing we can't fix naturally, but we may require brief assistance." There it came, the request. "Assistance," I echoed. "Financial," he clarified, sounding relaxed. "Just a quick loan, relatives supporting relatives. We've assisted you before, and I assumed." I stopped him. "Assisted me." That lingered briefly. He attempted to continue, searching for terms. "I mean, we brought you up, right? Provided chances, backed your ideas." I could picture his expression, hiding annoyance with control. "You never backed my venture," I stated softly. "You mocked it." He breathed out sharply, frustrated. "Aaron, I don't want to revisit past disputes. The fact is, we're in a spot needing cash flow. Just a few $100,000. I know you've progressed, and I cut in once more. You expect me to hand over funds after your treatment of me?" An extended quiet followed. When he resumed, his tone carried familiar sharpness. the kind showing he expected compliance. "You're still my son, Aaron. I'm requesting you support the family. Don't turn this into ego." I nearly chuckled at the contrast. Ego. I said I'd consider, then ended the call, but I didn't truly consider. I reflected on years of rejection, talks on how true achievement came only via his firm, the grins, the taunts. And now he required me. That night, Mom phoned. Her tone was softer, yet held similar hints. "Sweetheart, your father's quite worried. Work hasn't been simple. It would help greatly if you assisted." I inquired, "Do you know the amount he's requesting?" She paused, not precisely, "But he said you're succeeding," and I breathed out. "Mom, I care for you, but you both showed long ago I wasn't included in that firm. Why does it fall on me now that it's collapsing?" She stayed silent a while. When she replied, she seemed nearly sorrowful. "Because we're family, Aaron, and family supports one another. Family." That term always rang empty from her. "Because when I struggled, when I fought to pay rent initially, when I needed belief, they stayed absent. Family mattered only when useful to them." I gave no reply that evening. I said I'd contact soon, but in those days matters worsened. Evan visited my office more often. Initially, he acted like casual visits. He'd enter, praise the area, chat lightly, then mention the firm. "You know, Dad's facing heavy stress," he'd note against my desk. "He's not resting well. You could ease his burden by helping." I'd shrug, stay even, perhaps, but that's not my concern, right? He'd show that insincere sibling smile, the one without warmth. "Come on, Aaron, don't hold grudges. This concerns Dad. He's given everything for us. Everything for you," I corrected. He laughed as if I'd shared a mild story. "You need to release this bitterness, man. It's harmful. Look, once stable, we can even offer you a role. Perhaps in promotion. You have that inventive side." I eyed him. "You're suggesting employment. At Dad's firm? Why not? Time to enter proper business." That instant revealed they still failed to understand. They didn't view me as someone who'd created value, someone independent of their opinion. They saw the old Aaron to belittle. The perpetual secondary son. Weeks went by and requests became demands. Mom phoned again, then my relative, even one of Dad's former associates, contacted me, claiming I'd heard I acted difficult. Apparently, Dad told others I withheld help from revenge. It felt degrading, not because their views mattered, but because it displayed how simply my father altered facts to guard his image. To him, accepting need from me, his unsuccessful son, was impossible, so he labeled me the uncaring one. Then one day, I visited my parents' home without notice. I hadn't intended it. I passed by and sought clarity. Dad sat in his study amid piles of documents, appearing more unkempt than before. He looked up, startled, but composed himself. "Aaron," he said, attempting a smile. "Didn't think you'd visit." I indicated the disorder. "Seems challenging." He sighed, pressing his head. "We're handling just some obstacles. The market's uncertain these days." I scanned the papers. Several were overdue bills, others legal warnings. He saw my glance and stacked them hastily. "It's handled," he stated firmly. "Is it?" I questioned. "From what I know, the firm is near collapse." He struck the desk, surprising me. "Mind your manner," he barked. "You believe you understand more than me? I created that firm from zero." I held steady. "And you're nearing its loss." His face flushed. "You think you're clever from luck with shirt outlets? Don't fool yourself, Aaron. You'd fail quickly in my field." I watched him, understanding he'd prefer ruin over recognizing my success. "Then perhaps that's the issue," I said calmly. He rose, gaze intense. "You're not here to advise me on business. You're that same rash youth who believed he could outdo all. You haven't grown. Just become more arrogant." I stayed silent. I moved to exit. At the door, he uttered final words, the type that linger forever. "You'll never exceed a side note in this family, Aaron. Evan's the carrier of our name. You're just additional." That term additional pierced like a blade. I left, entered my vehicle, and remained seated, hands on the wheel. My heart tightened, but under the pain another force grew. Resolve, icy, planned, and powerful. Days later, I received another call from an unknown contact. It came from a finance group managing the bankruptcy for my father's firm. They inquired about interest in buying certain items from the liquidation. Initially, I suspected a prank. But as the person detailed the conditions, the rapid decline, the low asset values, an idea emerged. One that accelerated my heartbeat. It surpassed business. It became personal. Still, I didn't agree. Not immediately, because before deciding, I desired one final discussion. One more view of how deep my father's ego ran before total failure. And that arrived quicker than thought. A week on, he phoned again. This time, no superiority remained, only fatigue. "Aaron," he said, nearly begging, "we're in deep difficulty. I need your assistance." And that's when it shifted. When my father uttered, "I need your assistance," his voice broke. It was the first time hearing him sound weak, not furious, not demanding, just trapped. Briefly, I nearly overlooked it all. The insults through years, the diminishment, the constant contrasts. In that instant, I heard my dad. Not the one who rejected me, but the one who once cared for me as a child, before work became his world and Evan his chosen one. I inhaled deeply and said, "Okay, explain the situation." He sighed. The extended, tired kind, showing months of buildup. The banks withdrew, we lost financing. Wages due soon and we lack funds. Without immediate cash, the firm's done. He said "we" as if I'd shared it always. "How much?" I asked, knowing the sum would be large. 500,000, he replied, "that would hold for months. By then, new deals will come, it's short term." 500,000, he could have requested the impossible. I leaned back, allowing silence. And if I refuse, a pause came, brief yet noticeable. "Then everything your brother and I created collapses," he said softly. "Everything." I detected pride even then. Not sorrow, not modesty, pride. He cared less for workers or harm. He feared his reputation. "Why not sell assets?" I asked, "or reorganize?" He dismissed it. "Because I created this firm, Aaron. I'm Aaron, 27 years old, and if anyone in my family were asked who the accomplished son was, they'd name my brother Evan without a second thought." From our early years, it was never concealed. Dad held Evan in the highest regard. During every family meal, every gathering, and even on ordinary weekdays, he'd weave Evan's name into the discussion. Evan had just secured another advancement. Evan's manager viewed him as executive material. Evan truly had the dedication his brother lacked. His brother, me, the overlooked figure in the background, seemingly there only to highlight Evan's brilliance even more. Mom would occasionally attempt to ease the situation, commenting that your father simply desires the best outcome for you. Yet even she couldn't overlook how Dad's bias had evolved into something harsher with time. It surpassed ordinary pride and had become tied to his ego. He craved a standout son, a figure he could showcase to his coworkers, golf companions, or the circle of entrepreneurs he socialized with after hours. Evan filled that role perfectly. I, by contrast, represented the evidence that not every endeavor delivers returns. Evan chose the reliable route: university education, a finance qualification, a position in Dad's organization, advancing with Dad's steady backing. I pursued a distinct direction. Office routines and corporate maneuvering didn't suit me. I thrived on innovation, transforming ideas from zero into items others sought. At age 21, I invested my savings and a modest loan to open a community printing service. It lacked glamour, yet it was entirely mine. I remember stepping into the kitchen one evening after formalizing the venture, full of enthusiasm to share with my parents. I hoped that perhaps this time Dad might appreciate my initiative. He stayed focused on his device. A printing service, meaning signs and apparel. He responded, nearly amused. "That's hardly a venture, Aaron, more like a pastime. You'll exhaust your resources in months." Mom gave me that understanding glance, intended to reassure but only diminishing me further. Evan smiled over his food and suggested, "You should have joined Dad's organization. You might have enjoyed a reliable role instead of acting like a startup founder." That phrase, "acting like," lingered with me, as though my attempts were childish games next to their professional paths. The initial period proved demanding. Sleep was rare as I oversaw production, deliveries, and nighttime records. Yet bit by bit, progress emerged. I attracted nearby customers, then some institutions, and soon a regional athletic group requiring team wear and signage. Each success made me consider updating Dad. Each time I refrained, anticipating his reaction. After 2 years, I landed my first substantial project, a deal exceeding Dad's initial yearly earnings when launching his firm. During a family outdoor meal, as I began sharing, Dad interrupted to highlight Evan's recent vehicle. "That's the result of true dedication," he stated, patting Evan's shoulder. "Rewards follow." Turning to me, he continued, "Listening, Aaron. Dedication brings returns, not chasing unrealistic ideas. It extended past mere talk. He subtly hindered me in minor instances. When I proposed creating materials for his firm at lower cost to support the family operation, he dismissed it, saying we engage qualified providers, Aaron. Established printing firms, not your arrangement. That cut deep, not financially, but in revealing his low opinion of me. Still, I persisted. I abandoned seeking his recognition and focused on my objectives. In subsequent years, I scaled the operation through digital channels, added 2 branches, and introduced design and identity services. My initial outlet evolved into a solid enterprise with permanent staff. None of this impressed Dad. At every occasion, he'd insert sharp remarks, "Still managing your modest apparel setup." Or real earnings would come if you entered your brother's firm. Then arrived that specific evening, the one altering my entire viewpoint. It was Mom's birthday celebration at her chosen venue. I'd recently completed an alliance with a countrywide retailer. My most significant achievement. I debated mentioning it. For once, I wished to honor my progress too. Yet before speaking, Dad lifted his glass, a toast to Evan, the highlight of our household. His group achieved record earnings, all clapped. I remained silent. Mom glanced over, possibly sensing my tension, but kept quiet. Evan then whispered nearby, "Offer those shirts at lower rates, younger sibling. Perhaps you'll match pace." I manufactured a chuckle. Inside, however, something fractured. A long simmering frustration reached its limit. Post-dinner, I addressed Dad alone in the lot. I expressed exhaustion from ongoing contrasts. Weary of my accomplishments being dismissed, he faced me directly. "Aaron, this concerns facts, not contrasts. You selected a direction with no future. True independence eludes you, not genuinely." With a faint smile, he added, "Yet Evan might secure a position for you if needed." That became my quitting point. In following months, I withdrew, skipped family meals, ignored calls. I channeled energy into my venture. Markets evolved quickly. Dad's firm lagged in adjustment while mine expanded. I witnessed the gradual shift. Outdated approaches, aversion to innovation, mounting liabilities. Through networks, I heard of workforce reductions, delayed salaries, lost agreements. Dad minimized it as temporary difficulty. I recognized otherwise. One afternoon, Evan visited my premises. Months had passed without contact. He appeared in his customary sharp attire with assured expression. "Hey, younger brother," he began casually. "Dad encounters financial hurdles. Wondered if you'd consider assisting somewhat, perhaps providing funds to the firm." Hard to fathom. After endless ridicule, they sought me. I stayed composed. I'd reflect on it. Internally, a long-absent sensation arose. Advantage. Sleep escaped me that evening. Dad's phrases echoed. True independence eludes you, yet circumstances reversed. Days later, news arrived. Dad's organization, the creation he prized, the measure of my value, entered bankruptcy. This isn't the finish, far from it. After settlement and asset sales, I identified a chance. A meaningful one. I claimed it, yet I'm advancing too quickly. Prior to the sale, documents, and Dad's realization, an incident transformed me. It shifted silent resentment into strategic payback. It originated from a call, unforgettable. At my desk reviewing strong quarterly figures, the business excelled beyond expectations. Another key agreement secured, I felt genuine stability, financial and personal. I'd constructed something enduring without external validation. My aide announced a call from my father. Unusual after nearly a year of minimal contact. I accepted, curious yet guarded. His voice lacked strength, masked by effort. "Aaron, it's been long." "Indeed," I replied. Silence followed as he awaited my input. He continued about my mother's reports of my progress. "Better than progress, expansion," I noted. He chuckled condescendingly. "Positive to hear steadiness, son." The delivery implied limited praise, then tone changed. He'd heard of their challenges. I anticipated the request. Evan referenced it, I noted. He described difficulties, seeking brief aid. Financial, he specified casually. Family assisting family. I challenged the past lack of support. He dismissed revisiting history, requesting several $100,000 for liquidity. I questioned giving after mistreatment. He insisted on family duty, avoiding pride issues. I ended considering it. Reflections on past dismissals fueled resolve. Mom called, gently urging help. I highlighted exclusion from their world. Requests intensified with Evan's visits and others' pressure. Dad portrayed me as unwilling. I visited unannounced, confronting chaos in his study. He defended, belittled my achievements. Final words stung. I'd remain a side figure, Evan the legacy holder, me merely excess. Resolve hardened. Later, a finance contact offered asset purchase chances. Personal stakes grew. Another call from Dad, now pleading. I probed details. 500,000 needed. I weighed response. Continuation, rephrased and completed with matching style, engagement, and twist. I'm not passing it to outsiders. Outsiders like me? That silenced him. I nearly refused immediately to disconnect and depart. Yet a lingering desire for resolution urged continuation. I'll review it, I stated. Please act soon, he urged quietly. Post-call, I sat motionless. Office illumination gleamed on the pane, my reflection staring back endlessly. What consideration was this? Assisting, after all, deeper motives existed. Opportunity to observe his reliance on me. 2 days on, I contacted Evan. His usual arrogance showed. Finally seeing sense, he remarked. I seek full details, I explained. Dad quoted a figure, confirm it. He laughed, severe indeed. Major accounts departed, funds depleting. Recoverable with your involvement. You've achieved much independently, correct? Time to support family heritage. Heritage again. As if I'd benefited idly rather than creating my path. My benefit? I inquired directly. He chuckled without humor. Family aid suffices, no, silence from me. Honestly, if it collapses, Dad's finished, he added. Image, future security, all gone. Failure overwhelms him, I pondered. My father, lifelong superior, dreaded losing dominance, perhaps deepest fear. I'll review, I repeated. That evening brought restlessness. Insults replayed alongside rare positive memories. Bike repair at 10. Brief pride before obsession dominated. Hopeful side wondered if aid might alter views. Morning brought my call. I'll proceed, I announced. Quiet then relieved breath. Truly. Yes, funds transfer follows. Formal documents, conditions, loan, not grant. Naturally, he agreed swiftly. Easy consent signaled schemes. Meeting at his site revealed decay, vacant corridors, packing staff, unused equipment. Empire of 30 years now fading, forced greeting and extended handshake. Wise choice, son, deeper impact than realized. Evan presented papers, agreement ready for signature. Review showed investment framing, not loan. Tax adjustments, Evan dismissed. Repayment follows recovery. Instinct warned, distrust lingered, yet I signed. Transfer occurred next day. $500,000 lifetime effort. Temporarily updates flowed positively. Dad sought my input occasionally, surreal after neglect. Change seemed possible. Then board session invitation for leadership introduction. Nervous yet optimistic for equality. Conference tension evident. Dad presided, Evan beside unknowns. Arrival noted thinly. Discussions covered adjustments, alliances, obligations, I observed. Midpoint, Evan distributed files. New structure decided. My folder lacked ownership mention. I questioned position. Appreciated input, Dad noted, yet ownership stays internal for simplicity. My $500,000, operational use, Evan explained smoothly. Future repayment. Stomach sank. Patronizing gaze followed, not personal business. Phrase seared. Trick me, I voiced shakily. Tone warning issued. Grateful for involvement chance. Evan smirked on print background, unfit for finance. Quiet room. Heat rose, urges to react suppressed. I memorized expressions. No change. Manipulation revealed. Lifeline used, then discarded. Exit with formalities. Night brought reflection on humiliation and arrogance. Money lost, deepest fears confirmed. Employee alert followed, rival outreach poaching designers claiming my closure. Betrayal complete. Driving to parents that evening, mom startled. Study confrontation, not ideal timing, he claimed. Desk strike, team theft attempt. They initiated, he denied. Lies, I accused. Crippling after fund seizure. Watch language, he warned. Clear thinking absent. Perfect clarity here, I countered. Gifts taken, independent creation targeted. He claimed credit for my drive. Shadow dweller still. Realization struck, success threatened him. Needed my shortfall for superiority. Departure silent, inner shift to cold focus. Calls to legal bankruptcy handlers, allies followed. War declared. Silence weighed heavily afterward, weeks without family contact. Work absorbed me, yet distraction showed. Team noticed. Betrayal depth from kin hurt most. No remorse on their side, logical use to them. Initial move-on thoughts faded. Replay cycles demanded action. Collapse followed. Funds withdrawal strained my operations. Savings drained, plans delayed, compensation cut. Staff reassured falsely amid terror. 3 months later, supplier noted lost bid to undercutter. Father's firm again, insolvent yet competing destructively. Client confirmed price and stability doubts planted. Wall staring followed. Surreal sabotage. Dark apartment evening, city sounds distant. Whispers of defeat. Sleepless nights, skipped needs, isolation. Friend Dean entered with key. Run over appearance, he observed. Feels accurate, I replied. He listened as events poured out. That's rough, he said finally, but you're stronger than this. His words sparked. Next days brought strategy. I acquired bankruptcy assets discreetly. Auction day arrived. I bid strategically on core holdings, facilities, client lists, equipment. Victory secured quietly. Revelation meeting followed. Dad and Evan entered former office, now mine. Shock froze them. My print empire absorbed their remnants, rebranded under my leadership. Employees retained, modernized. Dad's face, disbelief to defeat. Evan speechless, poetic close. You built from nothing, I stated calmly. I rebuilt it properly. No gloating, just closure. They exited diminished. My path validated. Legacy now mine, earned independently. Family ties severed, success mine alone. That final twist brought peace, not through destruction but creation from their ashes. I stood taller, reflection showing not the overlooked son but the true victor. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a twist. Stay tuned to Reddit Tales Times for your daily dose of drama, laughs, and unbelievable stories.